Hey there, cool fans. This is Dave with my friend Phil. Welcome to another episode of Comic Cool Debates. Each week, we discuss three topics. First, we spotlight a creator involved in the comic book medium. Examples include artists, directors, programmers, and writers. Next, we each select one comic book related product. Each host reviews a comic book or a comic book inspired movie, television show, or collectible. Thanks for watching. Cool fans can support our channel with likes and subscriptions. Now, on to our first debate.
So for today's Creator Spotlight, we're going to be talking about, well, who else? The king of comics himself, Jack Kirby. And probably good timing for it too, seeing as how it is the year 2017 and it is Jack Kirby's 100th birthday. Now, Jack Kirby is called the King of Comics for good reason. He's provided so many different characters and concepts for two major comic book companies, no less, that have provided inspiration for so many different creators, as well as numerous adaptations utilizing aspects of his work. Take the recent Marvel and DC movies that came out this year. Thor Ragnarok, the director, Taika Waititi, he said that for the movie's visual style, he took much inspiration from Jack Kirby's work. And the Justice League movie, directed by both Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon, it's utilizing his fourth world creations for the movie's story. So, and it even credits fourth world created by Jack Kirby. So yeah, Jack Kirby has been a big inspiration for many. It is sad though that on his 100th birthday, that so far at least only DC Comics and people doing both DC and Marvel adaptations are, well, at least crediting Jack Kirby's legacy in some way, shape, or form. Marvel has been way too busy dealing with lawsuits from Kirby's estate to even do anything celebrating Jack Kirby's centennial. At least DC, so far as their comics are concerned, not just the movies, are putting out not only new trade paperback editions of Jack Kirby's work, such as Mr. Miracle, The Demon, Challengers of the Unknown, and others. They're even putting out new comics featuring these characters and concepts, such as a Mr. Miracle 12-issue series, a Demon 6-issue series, and even a 12-issue maxi series featuring Kamandi called the Kamandi Challenge, where in each issue a different creative team writes a Kamandi story. Creates a new Kamandi story. So yeah, Jack Kirby is, obviously, yes, he is one of the best, and I can't think of really anything negative to say about the guy, aside from maybe that reading some of his stories, they can seem a bit too simplistic and silly, but I can understand why they're so well beloved. They're bright and colorful and flashy, and they do have depth to them. And yeah, he is the king. Hail to the king, baby.
The late great Jack Kirby should serve as an inspiration for all comic book creators and fans. Looking back from his early days with Thor, his writing and art direction made Mjolnir leap off the page. He took a writing style, creative direction, and made it almost three-dimensional, more than the static images on a page. Kirby and Stan Lee teamed together to tell us great stories. They were drawn from great myths, legends, even classic fables. But the characters were believable, and we always rooted for the good guy. Because at the end of the day, the end of an adventure, or even the end of a small running series, we knew good would prevail. Sadly, that same legacy is not the same for the great Jack Kirby. Lawsuits mired his name in among Marvel. Numerous lawsuits launched by his family and their estate sought credit for the new movies like The Avengers, Iron Man, and many other famous ones from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This drew out even to the United States Supreme Court, up to less than a week before being heard on the hallowed halls. Marvel finally settled with the Kirby family to give Jack Kirby his due. Too often, new comic book creators, and ironically, especially those within Marvel's house, are failing to have read Jack Kirby, to have learned or be inspired by his work, even 50 or so years later. Nothing seems to be good enough for too many writers. And while, as an independent comic book creator myself, I can appreciate wanting to take new reign over new titles, but the trashing or flat out ignoring or disrespect of classic legacy characters is not only a disrespect to Marvel, it is a disrespect to Jack Kirby, and more importantly, as sales have shown, are a disrespect to fans. My hopes are that new creators, like the team that's doing the new Black Bolt launch with Marvel, sit together and reread some of the old works for inspiration to take characters like Black Bolt, arguably a fringe character despite his own phenomenal powers, in new directions. At the end of the day, we can believe in a character like Black Bolt because they are well written with the love and respect that Jack Kirby intended for the fans.
Phil's back, and I'm going to be talking about DC Rebirth. What is DC Rebirth, you might ask? Well, if you haven't been checking out any of DC's comics for the last year or so, you should probably definitely take a look now. Why? Because, well, in my opinion, Rebirth succeeds where the New 52 failed at. Now, when DC did the New 52 a couple years ago, it was an attempt to try to reintroduce, reimagine, just basically update their characters and teams and concepts for a new generation. The problem was the New 52 was, well, it was a mixed bag at best. People weren't sure which comics to follow. Some comics were still following their original storylines from before the New 52. It it wasn't sure whether people it wasn't yeah, people weren't sure what to make of it, and even the New 50 and even DC itself wasn't quite sure what to make of it. It couldn't settle its mind on whether they wanted to do a soft reboot or just a complete restart. And it just resulted in a lot of confusion, a lot of mishandling, and like I said, just a mixed bag. Where Rebirth succeeds, however, is basically going back to what the core of these characters are, which is the simple fact that they are superheroes. So Rebirth tries to have a more positive, optimistic, maybe even upbeat feel, while also acknowledging that they do live in, well, darker times, you know, while but the point of them is that they are trying to rise up above that. And I have been noticing this in several titles that I've been reading with DC Rebirth, such as Titans, Blue Beetle, Batwoman, and several others. They can acknowledge that their things aren't quite what they were before, but that doesn't mean they can't try to rise above the dark times that they are living in, and that they are trying to remain optimistic and hopeful about what's to come. Now, what's interesting to note Another thing that's interesting to note about DC Rebirth is that it is going to be ending after Doomsday Clock because, well, part of what made DC Rebirth happen in the first place, in fact, the whole New 52 as well, is because of Dr. Manhattan meddling with the time stream and causing changes to the overall DC universe. And Rebirth is more or less about trying to reconnect to what was lost because of what Dr. Manhattan changed. And after Doomsday Clock is over, then that's it for the Rebirth Initiative. And what DC does next, who knows? But I can say that I am hopeful for what's to come from DC because if they've been doing good with Rebirth, then hopefully that they can do good with what's next.
Hi, cool fans. This is Dave back with you, and I want to tell you about the best comic you're not reading. Go to your local comic book shop and pick up Cable 150. It starts off number 1, part 1 of the newer mutants. This time I think Brisson, Malin, and Abertov, I hope I pronounced their names correctly, have hit a smashing success with a great late 90s fan favorite Cable. The writing from him, I can hear Cable's voice, reminiscent of the great cartoon animated series. The characters, well, I'll start with one thing I don't like so much. I gotta critique the cover. There we see 7 individuals clearly shown on the cover. Only 4 of them appear in this issue. It teases that we certainly will need to add to Cable's growing team for a threat of the, spoiler alert, the externals. How do they fit into the universe? How do they fit into Cable's current timeline jump? Where are Shatterstar and Longshot fitting into place? And how silly is the addition of Dupe? Quite frankly, I really like Dupe. I knew very little about him prior to this and feared that he would be a comic relief, sheerly for comic relief, a forced laughter for younger audiences. However, while he certainly is silly, he provides a nice psychic boost to the team based on his own unique abilities. Shatterstar is Shatterstar. He's very much the combatant in this issue, as well as Longshot uses his trademark talents. And overall, despite all the guns that Cable may sport, despite his gruffness and harsh exterior, his dialogue is well driven, direct to the point, like we expect from the master of past, present, and future. So, if you haven't got it yet, go to your local comic book store, grab issue 150 of Cable, and start to follow along with the launch of the newer mutants.
Thanks for listening, cool fans. Please be polite and share your opinions in the comments section. What are your thoughts on this week's creator? Do you like our reviews? Let us know. Please like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications for our channel. This is Phil with my friend Dave, and until next time, stay cool.